Sometimes when we sit down to do healing and transformation, we end up making ourselves feel worse. And that really stinks because when I feel bad, it's hard for me to keep moving forward. When I feel bad, it's hard for me to come back to the tool set again. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you the reason why in the middle of transformation, we can actually feel worse for the moment. And the one question I ask myself, which gets me back on track, which makes it so much easier to create transformation. This is Monterastelli, and welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 628, originally aired September 11th, 2024. Hi, everyone. I hope this finds you well wherever you are, and whatever time of day you're getting a chance to listen to this. Thanks for spending a little time with me. Now, I'm guessing you're like me, and you don't like to look back, reflect on, and worse, dwell on the mistakes that you have made in the past. It's painful. It is shameful. It's horrible sometimes to look back at those things that I have done wrong. But the reality is, when we are doing transformation, oftentimes it requires us to look backwards, to confront those things. And sometimes when we do that, we're able to confront them in such a way where even though it's painful, it's easy for us to do the work, create the transformation, and move forward. But sometimes that's just not the case. Sometimes when we look backwards, we just end up feeling bad. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you what I do, and I use a very simple tapping approach when I find myself being agitated and escalating the issue because I'm judging my past choices. Now, if you are new to tapping and you have no idea what I'm talking about, tapping is this absolutely amazing tool that I use every single day. I use it with my clients on almost every single session as a way of creating change, transformation, and healing. The beautiful thing about tapping is it's something that is self-applied that you can use anytime, anywhere. If you are new to tapping and you'd like to learn a little bit about this, all you need to do is go to learntotap.com. That's learntotap.com. I will teach you all of the basics and how you can integrate tapping into your daily life. All you need to do is follow the little red arrow in the upper right-hand corner. That will take you to learntotap.com. So the primary problem with us being agitated when we are looking backwards is it can create three obstacles to us moving forward. So the way that this typically works is as I'm looking backwards and I'm looking at a mistake that I've made in the past, and I'm trying to create some healing around that, as I start to analyze that mistake, I start to have that story running in my head. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you were so stupid. You know better than this. You keep making the same mistake over and over again. So as I'm reviewing the past mistake, or I'm reviewing the past where I didn't do as well as I could, I'm in a circumstance where those emotions come up. Now, the reason why it's so important we deal with those particular emotions is those emotions can cause three problems. The first problem is it is just painful to tune into that, and it can get in the way of the healing in the moment. Number two, if we stir all of that up and we don't deal with it properly, I'm going to leave a healing and transformational session feeling worse than I did when I sat down. Like I sat down, I'm frustrated about not taking this action, and I leave it going, oh, you're so dumb, you keep letting yourself down, which is going to make the rest of my day harder. Number three is if I have that negative experience from transformation and it doesn't make me feel better, but it makes me feel worse, I'm going to be much less likely to reach for those tools in the future. So not only is it important for us to move forward, for us to be able to address this, I think this is super important to address because if I don't address this kind of escalating emotional spiral that shows up sometimes, it's actually going to make it harder for me in the future to create transformation. So let's look at the process and see how it unfolds so you can see when it shows up, and then we'll talk about how to deal with it. So for me, much of the tapping I'm doing is about moving forward. It's about taking action. And if I'm in a circumstance where I know what to do, I know how to do it, I have the resources to do it, and I have the desire to do it, and all four of those things are in place, and I'm not taking action, then there must be some resistance. If it wasn't for resistance to change, the change already would have happened. So if all of those prerequisites are in place of me knowing what to do and how to do it and being able to do it, and I'm not doing it, then for me, that means there is something emotional going on that is holding me back from taking action. There's resistance of some sort. So I go through the process and I figure out what that resistance is. So for me, the process is, okay, I want to take this action and I'm not taking it. So I imagine myself taking that action. And as I imagine myself taking the action, and this morning, as I was doing something like this, I was looking at my to-do list, that happened. There was a task that I had not been doing that I need to do. So I tuned into the action, and as I tuned into taking the action, I felt this tension in the middle of my chest. And so once I had this tension in the middle of my chest, to figure out what was going on, I asked a question of the tension. And I said, "Tension, what are you afraid is going to go wrong?" And the tension said, "You are going to fail because you didn't do well before." So then I go, "Great. What proof do you have?" I ask the tension again. "Do you have that I failed in the past, I'm going to fail again?" And so it brought up a specific memory of me trying to do something similar to the task I was trying to do today. So the resistance, the subconscious resistance was my subconscious mind was saying, the last time you tried this, you failed and it was really painful. Therefore, I'm going to make sure you don't try today so you can avoid the pain of failing. So it's a strategy that is keeping me safe from that particular pain. So now I have this memory, and so now I'm going to use my tapping and I'm going to tune into the memory. So I start replaying the memory in my head as I'm tapping, just to kind of see what is going on. And as I am replaying that memory in my head, my current self sitting in this moment starts to judge that past self. It's not looking back to understand. Instead, it's looking back and going, "Oh, you knew what to do and you still didn't make a good choice. You knew how hard it was and you didn't bring your best effort. You knew how valuable this was and you squandered the opportunity." And so all of a sudden, all of this emotion is coming up where I'm being judgmental of my past self. And there's a part of me that's like, "Oh, I just need to focus on this issue and I need to tap on it. I need to focus on this issue and I need to tap on it." But if we do that, where we continue to focus on the issue at hand, that past memory, it's going to be really, really hard because of that emotional swirl that I've just stirred up. Here's a really, really silly analogy to show it to you a different way. Let's pretend I have a car that has a flat tire. And so I'm on the side of the road and I'm trying to change the flat tire and I'm not paying attention. And what I do is I kneel down on the ground and I kneel down into a giant pile of red ants, into a red ant colony. And so as I'm trying to change the tire, all of a sudden the ants are climbing on me and they're biting me and they're biting me and I'm in all sorts of pain. Well, because of the pain that I am in, it's really difficult for me to focus on changing the tire. It's hard for me to keep a grip. It's hard for me to physically do what's going on because of that pain. And so in that circumstance, I would recognize I need to do something about the ants before I can change the tire. So I'm going to get up and I'm going to brush the ants off of me. I'm going to see if I can roll the car forward or back a little bit so I'm away from the pile of ants. Or I'm going to go and maybe get a small shovel and shovel the ants away so they're not immediately under me when I'm changing the tire. Because I recognize as long as the ants are there, I cannot focus on the tire. The same is true when I'm doing transformation. If I'm beating myself up for being stupid and not putting in enough effort and letting myself down and not living up to my standards, it's going to be impossible for me to focus on the issue that I'm tapping on. And so there becomes this tension. Because as tappers, we know we don't want to be chasing the pain. It's really easy when we're tapping to be tapping on an issue and another issue comes up and we chase it, and another issue comes up and we chase it, and we end up further and further away from what is going on. So we don't want to do that. So there's a part of us that wants to stay focused. But in this circumstance, the emotion that's coming up is making it impossible for us to focus. So when I am working on a past issue and I feel emotion rising inside of me, and I'm finding that I'm having less and less clarity about the thing I started tapping on, and I'm having less and less clarity in the words that I'm trying to say, I stop and I ask myself a question. The question is really simple, and the question is, What are you feeling right now? Now you'll notice that question is not about the initial task that I wanted to take. And the question is not about the story that came up that created the resistance. The question I'm asking is about what I'm feeling right now. And it feels like I am being distracted and I'm taking a step back, but instead, what it's doing is it's helping me to clear the deck. And so it's now like I'm feeling really frustrated at my past failures. I'm feeling disappointed at myself for letting myself down. I'm feeling like a failure. So then what I'll do is I will take a few moments and I'll tap on what I'm feeling right now. Right now, I'm really disappointed in myself because as I look at these past choices, I recognize how I let myself down. I recognized how I could have done better. I recognized my failures. And I give myself permission to recognize the fact I was scared in the moment. And because I was scared in the moment, I was pulling up short. So I'm just doing the tapping that's about the emotions that are coming up. Then, as that emotion reduces, as that emotion calms down, then I take a nice easy deep breath, I stretch, I move a little bit, I might take a sip of my water, and then I go back to the beginning. And I tune back into the action I want to take. Sometimes simply clearing the emotion that came up from the past story is enough to make the issue that I wanted to deal with easier, and I can do it. Sometimes there's still resistance about the task, so I come back to the memory and I do the work around the memory, but now I'm not as judgmental of myself, so I can actually deal with that. And so I recognize as I am doing transformation, I am evaluating and judging a past version of myself. Because the resistance I have in this moment was created from my past experiences, and my past is full of lots of mistakes, is full of lots of pits that I've fallen into, and lots of places that I've fallen short. And sometimes as I address that, emotion comes up. And so if emotion is coming up, the emotion about the issue, I recently learned a new piece of vocabulary. We call that the meta emotion, because it's the emotion about the issue at hand. If we have a bunch of meta emotions, if we have a bunch of emotions about what we're experiencing, it's going to be really, really hard for us to deal with what we're experiencing. So the next time you are tapping on something and you feel yourself getting stuck, you feel yourself like you cannot move forward and you're not having clarity and the tapping isn't working, take a nice big deep breath, tune into your system and just ask yourself the question, what am I feeling right now? And give yourself permission to step back from the reason why you sat down to tap. Downregulate that emotion. Get yourself back in your body. Get your head clear again. Then step back into the work that you're doing. So it's really, really simple to do. Again, it's just as simple as anytime I don't feel like my tapping is moving forward in the way that I want. You don't even have to think about the analysis of all the stuff that we've talked about here. But the simplest way to remember this is the next time you are tapping and you feel stuck, or the next time you're tapping and you don't know what to say next, take a deep breath, ask yourself the question, what am I feeling right now? Tap on that, then go back to the issue at hand, then go back to where you're starting, and you'll be shocked and amazed at how much more clarity you have and how much easier it is to create transformation. So it's really, really very simple. I would love to hear how you try that out. Drop me a note. Let me know what is going on, how that experience is for you as you are trying that. If you know someone in your life who could use a little feedback like this, use this little bitty tool, please be our ambassador, pass it along. We always talk about the fact that our marketing budget is your word of mouth, and there might be someone in your life who really needs this today. And the beautiful thing is, if you reach out to someone in your life and say, hey, I have this video you might like, it might make a difference for you today, even if they don't watch the video, even if they don't listen to the podcast, the simple fact you have reached out to them and said, hey, this could be a useful resource, their day is going to be a little brighter because you thought of them. That sounds super, super cheesy. It feels cheesy coming out of my mouth, but it's absolutely true. You know it's true. I know it's true. Make someone stay brighter and share a resource with them. On your screen right now, you can see the entire back catalog of the podcast. Click on that playlist, dive back in. There's lots of great information there.